Welcome, travelers of time and myth, to Forgotten Scrolls. Tonight, I will guide you through a story that has withstood the relentless passage of time. This tale is dedicated to those who seek to know the value, the cunning, and the spirit of a hero who faced monsters and profound challenges, both external and deeply internal. Have you ever wondered how an ancient legend can inspire our very own daily battles? Here, within these words, you will find the answer. In this narrative, we will explore the life of Theseus, one of the most emblematic heroes of ancient Greece. From his mysterious origin, through the defining trials that shaped his destiny, to his ultimate confrontation with the fearsome Minotaur in the Labyrinth of Crete. This narration will help you quietly understand the enduring power of bravery and intelligence on the path of personal growth. Prepare for a tranquil journey, yet one filled with profound depth. During this documentary, designed to help you relax before sleep, you will immerse yourself in a story that seamlessly combines mystery, raw courage, and enduring humanity. These are not merely myths. They are timeless lessons that have traversed the ages and remain deeply relevant in our daily lives. With a measured, pausing narration, I invite you to allow these words to carry you into a state of calm and profound reflection. If you cherish these stories that nourish the soul and expand the mind, remember to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to never miss an episode. Here, on Forgotten Scrolls, together we revive the myths and learn from them, empowering us to face each new day with greater strength. Now accompany me as we quietly discover the incredible life of Theseus. Chapter 1. The Dawn of Theseus. Theseus was born in Athens at a time when legends gracefully intertwined with the raw reality of ancient Greece. His father was Aegeus, the wise king of Athens, a man of great power and profound responsibility. Theseus's mother was Aethra, a woman both wise and valiant who faced immense challenges during her pregnancy. The union between Aegeus and Aethra was far from simple. It was marked by profound secrets and interwoven destinies. From his very inception, Theseus's conception was enveloped in an aura of deep mystery. According to some ancient versions, Aegeus visited Aethra, and before departing, left a sword and a pair of sandals hidden beneath a colossal rock. He instructed her that when their child grew strong, enough to lift the stone and claim these hidden objects, he was to journey to Athens to assert his rightful claim as the king's son. This act, steeped in symbolism, would become the very test that would irrevocably mark his destiny. Aethra, keenly aware of the profound significance of this gesture, raised Theseus with the quiet hope that one day he would fulfill the sacred mission his father had entrusted to him. From his earliest years, the boy displayed an inherent strength and unyielding determination that impressed all who knew him. His growth was meticulously shaped by a constant preparation for a future teeming with formidable challenges and heroic deeds. The figure of Aegeus, though distant, was fundamental in Theseus's life. The king did not openly acknowledge his son until Theseus was truly ready to confront his destiny. Thus, Theseus matured in an environment where patience and rigorous testing were an essential part of his arduous path toward true heroism. When Theseus finally reached the destined age, he effortlessly lifted the great rock his mother had indicated, retrieving the sword and sandals his father had left hidden. This pivotal moment marked the true beginning of his arduous journey, a crucial transition between the innocence of childhood and the formidable demands of heroism. It was the unspoken signal to depart for Athens and claim his legitimate place. With resolute bravery and unwavering determination, Theseus embarked upon the challenging road toward his father's city. This journey was not merely geographical. It was profoundly symbolic, representing his passage toward a destiny that would forever alter the course of history. From his very first step, the young hero knew he would face immense trials, yet he was utterly resolute in fulfilling his sacred purpose. In Athens, Theseus presented himself before his father and the assembled people. However, It was not an easy task for him to earn recognition and due respect, given his status as an illegitimate son. Many doubted his worth and his right to the throne, yet the young man's inherent strength and steadfast character gradually began to sway those around him. King Aegeus, though undoubtedly proud, was acutely aware that Theseus needed to prove his worth through heroic deeds and acts of profound justice. For this reason, he entrusted him with a perilous mission that would serve as the definitive test of his legitimacy. This mission was not merely a personal challenge, it was a profound opportunity to display his valor before both Athens and its lurking enemies. The task assigned to Theseus was to confront the various threats that imperiled Athens' security. At that time, the city suffered the constant menace of tributes and conflicts with other regions, especially with Crete, where the Minotaur sowed widespread terror. This challenging political and social context became the very stage upon which Theseus was destined to demonstrate his true strength. The birth of Theseus was not merely a family event, it was the genesis of a legend that would transcend generations. His origin was intrinsically marked by a blend of divinity and humanity, for some ancient tales also link him to the mighty god Poseidon, adding a mystical element to his complex identity. This dual nature profoundly fortified his heroic character. From a young age, Theseus displayed qualities that remarkably distinguished him from other youths. His innate bravery, keen intelligence, and deep sense of justice were fundamental in shaping his noble character. He was not merely physically strong, he was also cunning and compassionate, essential traits for the hero he was destined to become. The anticipation surrounding Theseus grew swiftly in Athens. His figure represented the burgeoning hope of liberation and the longed-for end to the burdensome tributes imposed by Crete. His birth, therefore, held not only personal significance, but also symbolized the profound rebirth of a people, weary of oppression and pervading fear. Theseus's education included rigorous combat training, instruction in ethics, and a deep understanding of Athenian history and traditions. His formation was thorough and complete, preparing a young man not only for the harshness of battle, but for the solemn responsibilities of leadership and justice. Each day was a vital lesson designed to strengthen both his body and his mind. Finally, the birth of Theseus marked a profound turning point in the history of Athens, not only as the king's son, but as a vibrant symbol of enduring resistance and hopeful aspiration. His arrival heralded the beginning of a new era where valor and intelligence could indeed change a people's very destiny. Thus began the remarkable life of the hero that all would forever remember. Chapter 2. The Wanderer's Trials. Theseus grew up in Troezen, a small, quiet city where his mother, Aethra, raised him in utmost secrecy, far from the lurking dangers of Athens. From a very young age, he displayed a keen, awakened intelligence and an unyielding will. His days were meticulously structured by rigorous physical training, lessons in military strategy, and ancient tales about his absent father. He knew, with an inner certainty, that a greater destiny quietly awaited him. The inhabitants of Troezen observed the boy with a mix of respect and quiet admiration. His physical strength was remarkable, even among grown adults. But what drew the most attention was his innate sense of honor. He never exploited his power, always acting with unwavering justice. This quality profoundly distinguished him from other youths who sought combat merely for fleeting glory. His mother never immediately revealed the truth about his father. Only when he reached a certain age did Aethra lead him to a large, flat stone in the countryside. Beneath it lay hidden the sandals and the sword that Aegeus had left before his departure. It was the destined moment to test if Theseus was truly prepared for his grand purpose. The stone was colossal, and no man in the village had ever managed to move it. Yet Theseus, with focused concentration and raw strength, lifted it effortlessly, revealing the concealed objects. Aethra, with tears glistening in her eyes, finally explained the profound origin of those potent symbols. Now he understood. He was no ordinary youth. He was the son of the king of Athens. Resolute in claiming his rightful place beside his father, Theseus defiantly refused to take the safe sea route to Athens. Instead, he chose the perilous overland journey, the one fraught with bandits and monstrous beasts. His decision was not impulsive. He yearned to cleanse the path of dangers and prove himself worthy of his royal lineage. Every single step was a silent test of his unyielding courage. The first menace on his chosen path was Periphetes, a notorious bandit who wielded an enormous bronze club to murder unsuspecting travelers. Theseus fearlessly confronted him, expertly dodging his blows until he snatched the weapon and defeated him. This victory marked the decisive beginning of his burgeoning reputation as a hero, and the club itself became one of his enduring symbols. Next, he faced Sinis, the pine bender, who brutally killed his victims by tying them to two bent pine trees that would tear them apart upon release. Theseus not only vanquished him in combat, but punished him with his own cruel method, delivering justice with his very hands. The brutality of the punishment demonstrated that he sought not merely victory, but the restoration of order. At the Isthmus of Corinth, he encountered Siren, who forced travelers to wash his feet, only to then hurl them from a perilous cliff. There, a giant turtle, according to legend, would devour them. Theseus faced him head-on, and after defeating him, he cast him into the sea, where fittingly, he met the same fate. Every vanquished enemy was another step toward the young man's complete transformation. He also confronted Circeon, who challenged travelers to wrestling matches and murdered them upon victory. Theseus, far more agile and strategically brilliant, easily defeated him. These actions were not mere physical battles, but profound acts of justice, cleansing Greece of the rampant violence and chaos that threatened it. One of the most macabre challenges was Procrustes, who sadistically tortured his victims on an iron bed. If they were too long, he would sever their limbs. If too short, he would stretch them by force. Theseus defeated him, and with grim justice, adjusted him to his own bed, giving him an end fitting his cruelty. The common people began to speak of him as a liberator. Each encounter fortified his character and his unyielding determination. Theseus was not only slaying human monsters, he was sowing a powerful message of order, justice, and profound balance. The overland route to Athens, once feared by all, began to be traversed with newfound confidence. His passage left a trail of burgeoning hope. Upon reaching the gates of Athens, his burgeoning fame had preceded him, yet his reception was far from festive. Medea, King Aegeus's wife at that time, feared that Theseus would usurp the throne from her own son. Thus, she subtly attempted to poison him during a grand banquet. Treachery lurked, even before he was fully recognized. When Theseus at the feast drew his father's sword to carve the meat, Aegeus recognized it instantly. He suddenly understood that this young man was his long-lost son and swiftly intervened, stopping the assassination attempt. Emotion flooded the hall. Theseus was embraced by his father, and the people celebrated the long-awaited reunion with joyful cries. Theseus's childhood and youth were not marked by comfort or privilege. They were years of rigorous preparation, arduous learning, and formidable challenges that forged him into the hero he was destined to be. It was not his lineage that defined him, but his unwavering actions on the path to his destiny. He was a young man who had conquered his very name through sheer effort and immense courage. Now, in Athens, Theseus stood before new, more complex and profound challenges. He was no longer just a mere traveler, he was a public figure, a powerful symbol of renewal and hope for his people. The initial trial had been overcome, but the true mission was only just beginning. The hero's story was far from its conclusion. Chapter 3. The Labyrinth's Shadow. The city of Athens lived under a constant, crushing shadow. Every 9 years it was forced to send to Crete 7 young men and 7 maidens as a grim tribute to King Minos. This terrible agreement was the bitter consequence of a lost war, and the price was paid in innocent blood. The chosen victims were cruelly cast into the labyrinth, a monstrous prison designed specifically to feed the terrifying Minotaur. The Minotaur was a monstrous creature, half man and half bull, born from a divine curse upon King Minos' wife. Born of deceit and forbidden passion, he was imprisoned within an intricate labyrinth, meticulously constructed by the brilliant architect Daedalus. There, he became a living symbol of punishment, of pervasive fear, and of the collective guilt accumulated by an entire generation. When the time for the new tribute was announced, Theseus, now recognized as the rightful prince of Athens, bravely decided to offer himself voluntarily. His decision was neither impulsive nor a random act of heroism. He was deeply convinced that only by confronting this horror could he liberate his people from the crushing Cretan yoke. No one truly believed he could survive, yet his will remained unyielding. King Aegeus pleaded with his son not to depart, but Theseus was resolute. As a silent sign for his return, they agreed upon a code. If he returned alive, he would change the ship's black sails to white. It was a quiet promise between father and son, a sacred pact of hope amidst the raw pain of farewell. Theseus departed for Crete alongside the 14 chosen youths. The voyage was tense, enveloped in a shroud of fear and grim resignation. While some wept openly and others remained silently trembling, Theseus maintained a profound calm. His mind was already focused on the labyrinth, on the creature he was destined to confront and overcome. Upon his arrival in Crete, news of his presence spread rapidly like wildfire. The Athenian prince's bravery captivated many, especially Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos. She became utterly fascinated by his courage and his noble bearing, and soon began to wonder if she could possibly help him survive. In her heart, an unexpected hope began to blossom. Minos received the Athenians with chilling indifference, treating them as if they were mere livestock. His power was absolute, and he showed no compassion. The Cretan people, long accustomed to this cycle of death, no longer reacted with overt horror. Only Ariadne seemed deeply moved by the foreigner's grim fate and by Theseus's quiet, steadfast resolve. Meanwhile, Theseus meticulously studied every corner of the palace, observing the guards' behavior, the labyrinth's entrance, and the rituals preceding the sacrifice. He did not act as a helpless victim, but as a shrewd strategist. He knew his only chance lay in meticulous preparation and in any aid he could procure. Secretly, Ariadne approached him, confessing her desperate desire to help him escape with his life. Together, they began to devise a plan. She knew Daedalus, the labyrinth's architect, and understood that without a guide or a method, finding the exit once inside would be utterly impossible. The only option was a clever trick. Theseus accepted her aid, not as a coward gripped by fear, but as a discerning warrior who knew how to listen. Together, they shared long, quiet conversations under the moonlight, speaking of justice, of duty, and of dreams. Between them, a strong bond began to form, nourished by shared hope and the looming imminent danger. The night before the sacrifice, Ariadne presented him with the famous ball of thread. With it, Theseus could mark his path from the labyrinth's entrance, thus ensuring he could find his way back out after confronting the Minotaur. It was not a weapon, but a tool of intelligence. And that night, they sealed their alliance with a solemn oath. If he survived, he would take her with him. The day of descent into the labyrinth arrived. Theseus, accompanied by the other youths, was led to the entrance of the dark, foreboding corridor. While the others wept or trembled, he slowly unrolled the thread, utterly focused, refusing to let fear dominate him. The moment to confront the monster had finally come. Every step inside the labyrinth was a test of raw courage. The damp walls, the echoing confines, all intensified the tension. Theseus moved with cautious deliberation, guided by intuition and the slender thread that tethered him to the outside world's light. There was no room for error. Finally, a deep roar alerted him. The Minotaur was not merely a beast. It was a terrifying, palpable presence. In the oppressive darkness, the clash was inevitable. The air filled with a tense silence before the confrontation, where only one would emerge alive. Theseus stood ready to fulfill his destiny. The encounter with the Minotaur was not only physical but profoundly symbolic. It represented collective fear, rampant violence, and deep-seated injustice. For Theseus, slaying it was not mere vengeance, but pure liberation. In the heart of the labyrinth, he stood face to face with the final, ultimate trial, knowing his people awaited his glorious victory. Chapter 4. The Labyrinth's Silent Embrace. The labyrinth, meticulously constructed in Crete by the ingenious Daedalus, was a true masterpiece of both architecture and profound mystery. Designed specifically to confound any intruder, its winding passages snaked in myriad directions, seemingly without any discernible logic. It was a place where to be lost meant to vanish forever, trapped within an endless, hopeless maze. This intricate complex served not merely as a prison for the Minotaur, it was also a stark symbol of the absolute power wielded by King Minos. Through it, he kept conquered peoples subjugated, imposing grim tributes and vividly demonstrating Crete's formidable might. The labyrinth represented the pervasive darkness that reigned during those years, the crushing fear that paralyzed even the bravest souls. For those who dared to enter, the task seemed utterly impossible. Its design ensured that no one could find the exit after confronting the monster. Its towering, smooth walls, devoid of any visible marks, made orientation agonizingly difficult. Within its confines, a disquieting mix of confusing echoes, unsettling shadows, and a heavy, oppressive air intensified the mounting anxiety. Daedalus, despite his architectural genius, guarded the labyrinth's secret with fierce jealousy. No one else knew its complete structure or its escape routes. The labyrinth became a perfect prison, an enigma impossible to solve without external assistance. This condition kept the Minotaur hidden and, in theory, secure. The labyrinth was not just a physical place, it was also a profound symbol of the internal fears that every human faces. For Theseus, it represented the ultimate confrontation with his own doubts, his deepest terrors, and the relentless struggle for self-control. In that confined space, he had to unearth his strength from beyond the physical, delving into his mind and spirit. The Athenians viewed the labyrinth as a grim prison for their future, a fatal destiny that condemned their youth. For them, hope resided solely in Theseus, who not only had to slay the monster, but also shatter that cycle of oppression. The labyrinth was the supreme test for a hero seeking to liberate his people. Every legend woven around the labyrinth only amplified its mystery. Some whispered it was protected by ancient spells or held hidden traps. Yet, in truth, its sheer architectural complexity was enough to instill profound terror. This place, with its impenetrable aura, challenged Theseus unlike any other trial he had faced. Upon entering the labyrinth, Theseus understood that he needed to employ intelligence above brute force. The monster was indeed dangerous, but becoming lost meant certain death. Thus, the labyrinth itself transformed into a potent symbol of the human mind, confronting its own limits and desperately seeking light in the deepest darkness. Chapter 5. Ariadne and the Thread of Hope. Ariadne, the discerning daughter of King Minos of Crete, was known throughout the lands for her exquisite beauty and profound wisdom. From the very first moment her eyes fell upon Theseus, she felt an intricate mix of deep admiration and heartfelt compassion. She was intimately familiar with the cruel fate that awaited the Athenian youths, and she resolved with quiet conviction that she must help this brave prince survive. Thus, a clandestine alliance was born. Although her formidable father reigned with an iron fist, Ariadne chose to act from the shadows. She knew that if her support for Theseus were discovered, she would be risking her very life. Yet, her unwavering conviction for justice and her fervent desire for liberation compelled her to defy the established power, displaying a courage equal to that of her beloved hero. She sought out Daedalus, the brilliant architect of the Labyrinth, for his invaluable counsel. She understood the immense complexity of the place and knew that only with his expert guidance could anyone hope to survive once venturing into its treacherous passages. Daedalus, in turn, provided her with the crucial ball of thread, a simple yet utterly vital tool that would mark Theseus's path back to safety. The daring plan began to take precise shape. Ariadne presented Theseus with the ball of thread the night before his perilous descent. She meticulously explained that he must tie one end to the labyrinth's entrance and slowly unroll it as he proceeded deeper inside. In this way, he could follow the thread back to the light once his perilous mission was complete. It was an act of absolute trust between them, a bond that transcended mere physical support. During the tense hours leading up to the confrontation, Ariadne remained by Theseus's side, quietly offering him strength and unwavering hope. They spoke of their dreams, of a future free from fear and oppressive tributes, and of the profound possibility of a love that could survive even the direst peril. That intimate moment profoundly fortified the young hero's spirit, preparing him for the immense challenge ahead. Ariadne's gesture symbolized far more than physical aid. It embodied the nascent union between two peoples and the hopeful promise of profound change. Her quiet courage amidst the oppressive power of her own father vividly demonstrated that even in the darkest circumstances, light can emerge from the most unexpected hearts. As night fell, preparations in Crete continued, while Ariadne and Theseus meticulously refined their strategy. The thread was a potent symbol of intelligence and hope, a seemingly fragile tool that held the power to save lives. This small, ingenious detail was the crucial difference between certain death and a possible, glorious victory. The relationship between Ariadne and Theseus was rooted not only in mutual support, but in a deep shared understanding of justice and destiny. Both carried the heavy burden of their respective peoples and the immense responsibility of breaking a brutal cycle of suffering. This profound connection solidified their unwavering commitment to the mission. Before he departed, Ariadne implored Theseus that if he survived, he must take her with him, far away from Crete. It was a plea, infused with love, fear, and enduring hope. For her, Theseus's success represented not only the freedom of Athens, but also the possibility of a new beginning for them both. The ball of thread, seemingly simple, was a stroke of brilliant genius in a world often dominated by brute force. Ariadne, through this silent act, proved that intelligence and solidarity could be powerful weapons against tyranny. Her contribution was utterly essential for Theseus to confront the labyrinth with a greater sense of security. The young princess acted with quiet discretion, acutely aware that any suspicion could lead to her condemnation. Despite the immense risk, she maintained her hope and unwavering faith in the future. Her silent bravery became a compelling example of quiet resistance against oppression. As Theseus prepared to enter the labyrinth, Ariadne watched from a distance, silently praying for his success. Her role was fundamental, yet deeply perilous. Their intertwined destinies were tied to that slender thread, a thread that held the power to save a life and irrevocably change the course of history. Ariadne demonstrated that sometimes the simplest acts can have the most profound impact. Her aid was the crucial key that unlocked the door to freedom. In a world rife with violence and pervasive fear, her gesture of love and quiet wisdom shone like a guiding light in the deepest darkness. Her story became etched forever in the memory of generations as a timeless symbol of hope, of enduring bravery, and of a powerful alliance. Ariadne was not merely a princess. She was a true heroine who, with a simple ball of thread, changed the destiny of Athens and its people. Her pivotal role in the legend of Theseus is inseparable from the hero's ultimate success. Finally, the profound bond between Ariadne and Theseus transcended mere strategy, blossoming into a deeply moving story of love and unwavering trust. Amidst the terrifying labyrinth, that alliance would become the very foundation for confronting the monster and emerging alive. Thus, the saving thread transformed into an eternal symbol. Chapter 6. The Minotaur's Fall. The moment of truth had finally arrived. Theseus, guided by Ariadne's slender thread, advanced with a steady, resolute pace deep into the labyrinth. His breathing remained constant, every breath a conscious act, acutely aware that any distraction could prove fatal. He knew he had to confront the Minotaur not only with raw strength, but with keen intelligence and unwavering bravery. The creature emerged from the oppressive shadows, utterly imposing and terrifying. Its massive body was half man and half bull, with powerful muscles and a wild, untamed gaze. The air filled with a tense, suffocating silence, broken only by the heavy sound of its thundering footsteps and the accelerated beat of Theseus's own heart. Theseus recalled the ancient teachings of his father and his own rigorous training. He must not merely strike with blind fury, but patiently seek the precise moment to unleash his attack. Patience and cunning strategy were his most potent weapons. In that critical instant, the young hero transformed into an implacable warrior. The first clash was brutal. The Minotaur lunged, attempting to crush Theseus with its formidable horns, but the prince deftly dodged. He wielded the club he had taken from Periphetes, striking with precise, calculated impacts. Each blow aimed to weaken the monstrous creature, to wear it down until it could no longer endure. The struggle was intense and protracted. The Minotaur defended itself with ferocious determination, roaring and charging without rest. But Theseus, with unwavering resolve and sheer endurance, maintained control of the combat. His body responded to every fluid movement, and his mind meticulously calculated each step. At a crucial juncture, Theseus managed to wound the Minotaur in one leg, greatly diminishing its mobility. This pivotal moment shifted the dynamic of the confrontation, allowing him to attack with newfound confidence. His previous experience with human foes had taught him to ruthlessly exploit an adversary's weaknesses. With one final, supreme effort, Theseus expertly trapped the Minotaur in a precise maneuver, strangling it with his powerful arms. The creature, unable to break free, fell, utterly defeated. Silence once more enveloped the labyrinth, broken only by the hero's ragged breathing. Theseus's victory was not only physical, but profoundly symbolic. He had vanquished the monster that terrorized his people and brought an end to the cruel tradition of tribute. His triumph represented soaring hope and profound renewal for Athens and all of Greece. It was the dawning of a new era. After ensuring the Minotaur posed no further danger, Theseus began his journey back. The ball of thread Ariadne had given him proved fundamental in navigating the intricate labyrinth without becoming lost. Every step backward was as decisive as the fierce battle itself. Emerging into the light of day, Theseus felt a complex mixture of immense relief and profound triumph. He had achieved the impossible, defying death and pervasive terror. His figure, marked by the recent battle, became an enduring symbol of bravery and justice for his people and for all posterity. His return signified not merely coming back alive, but bringing with him freedom and a vibrant, renewed hope. Theseus knew that his feat would irrevocably change history, and that the Minotaur's defeat was an act of collective liberation. His name would forever resonate in the memory of Athens. In the court of Crete, news of the monster's fall caused widespread commotion. Minos's power had been defied by a young, seemingly unknown hero. This event dramatically shifted the balance of power in the Mediterranean, setting a clear precedent for future rebellions and political transformations. Theseus had shown that combined strength, intelligence, and bravery could overcome even the most fearsome challenges. His victory inspired generations, quietly reminding them that no monster is truly invincible if faced with unwavering determination and profound wisdom. The act of slaying the Minotaur also sparked a moral debate about justice and violence. Theseus transformed into a complex hero, for his act signified both salvation and death. This profound duality became an integral part of his legacy and the deep richness of his story. Finally, the defeat of the Minotaur solidified Theseus's status as a legendary hero. His courage and strategic brilliance not only liberated Athens, but also powerfully demonstrated that destiny itself can be altered by decisive actions. Thus, the name of Theseus entered into eternity. Chapter 7: The Shadow of Homecoming. After his resounding victory over the Minotaur, Theseus embarked upon the long, arduous journey back to Athens. His heart was heavy with profound hope and a deep sense of responsibility for his people. He knew that his return would mark a profound turning point in the history of his city. However, the journey itself was not without its own trials. Theseus had to navigate unknown waters, confronting fierce storms and treacherous natural obstacles that tested his endurance and his unwavering will. Each day of the crossing was a stark reminder that the victory in Crete was merely the beginning. Ariadne accompanied Theseus on this return, though her own destiny would soon become tragically uncertain. She, who had provided the saving thread, became a steadfast companion and a source of quiet support for the hero throughout the voyage. Her very presence brought calm and strength amidst the uncertainties of the journey. During the navigation, Theseus and Ariadne shared moments of deep reflection about the future that awaited them. They spoke of a new world, one where Minos' tyranny would be a distant memory. Both dreamed of freedom, of love, and of justice, the very pillars for the rebuilding of Athens. As the coast of Athens drew nearer, a quiet anxiety grew in Theseus's heart. He knew he had to announce his people's liberation and prepare the city for a profound new chapter. The weight of this responsibility was as immense as the hope he carried within him. In Athens, news of Theseus's return spread swiftly. The inhabitants waited with a mix of nervousness and fervent enthusiasm. For many, the young prince represented the salvation of an oppressed people and the powerful promise of a better future. The atmosphere was charged with palpable emotion. Upon disembarking, Theseus was received with jubilant cries by his compatriots. His heroic figure and the defeat of the Minotaur were a source of collective pride. The people saw in him not just a warrior, but a leader capable of transforming Athens' reality forever. However, amidst the joyous celebration, a subtle tension was brewing. King Aegeus, Theseus's father, awaited news from Crete with anxious impatience. The bond between father and son remained strong, yet it was now tinged with uncertainty regarding the voyage's outcome and the struggle Theseus had faced. Tradition dictated that Theseus should change the ship's black sail to a white one, a clear signal of success and life. This symbolic detail was crucial for communicating the young hero's fate and the outcome of his mission to the king and the people. The white sail represented hope and victory. Theseus, keenly aware of the weight of this symbol, had promised his father he would do so. However, amidst the adversities and overwhelming fatigue, a fatal error regarding this signal would unleash a tragedy that would profoundly mark everyone. History was quietly preparing for an unexpected, somber turn. Throughout the journey, Theseus had to maintain high morale among his companions and confront his own internal doubts. The immense pressure of carrying Athens' destiny was considerable. His emotional strength was tested just as much as his physical capacity to overcome the hardships. The relationship between Ariadne and Theseus deepened under these trying circumstances. Both shared not only the glory of victory, but also the heavy burden of the uncertain return. This profound bond marked a before and after in their lives, uniting their destinies and their shared commitment. As the city drew closer, Theseus's heart beat with quiet intensity. He knew that Athens' future depended on his leadership, and that his return was far more than a mere arrival. It was the true beginning of a new era for his people and for himself. Finally, the ship touched Athenian soil, and the young hero disembarked with a resolute gaze and a renewed spirit. The city waited anxiously, and with it, the promise of freedom, justice, and hope that Theseus carried within him. His homecoming was the necessary step to continue the profound transformation. Thus, the return to Athens marked the dawn of a new stage, filled with both challenges and immense responsibilities, but also with great, vibrant possibilities. Theseus prepared to embrace his true role, not just as a king, but as a leader and a builder of a brighter future for his beloved people. Chapter 8. The Tragedy of the Black Sails. When Theseus set sail from Crete with his triumphant crew, he carried with him not only the glory of having vanquished the Minotaur, but also a solemn promise made to his father, King Aegeus. Before his departure, they had agreed upon a simple code, yet one, laden with profound meaning. If Theseus was victorious and returned alive, he would replace the ship's ominous black sails with bright white ones. That simple signal would be enough to announce his victory from afar. The journey home was long and turbulent, filled with conflicting emotions. On the ship's deck, Ariadne was no longer present. She had been left behind, abandoned on the island of Naxos, following a decision by Theseus that would never be fully clarified. Some believed it was by the will of the gods. Others maintained that Theseus acted out of cold political calculation. What was certain was that the young Cretan princess did not accompany the hero on his return. During the crossing, Theseus appeared distracted and melancholic. The accumulated tension from the adventure, the slaying of the Minotaur, and the heavy burden of responsibility weighed profoundly upon his shoulders. Ariadne's absence also visibly affected his spirit. He retreated into his own thoughts, reliving every moment spent within the labyrinth, every decision made, every face lost in Crete's oppressive darkness. As the ship approached the coasts of Athens, a soft morning mist shrouded the distant horizon. The city still slumbered, yet Aegeus, the aging king, waited anxiously atop the cliff overlooking the sea. Day after day he had waited in that very spot, his gaze fixed on the horizon, searching for a sign. The pact was clear. If he saw white sails, his son was alive. If they were black, then Theseus would have perished. But amidst the emotional chaos of the journey, no one remembered to change the sails. Fatigue, grief, and profound distraction consumed the young hero and his weary crew. The black sails continued to unfurl from the mast, as dark as on the day of their departure. From his high vantage point, Aegeus finally sighted the ship, drawing near with its sinister dark banners, and his heart filled with an unbearable despair. There were no words, no cries. The king, utterly unable to bear the pain of losing his only son, made a tragic, irreversible decision. Without waiting for confirmation, he cast himself from the cliff's height into the sea, which from that day forward would forever bear his name, the Aegean Sea. It was an impulsive act, born of anguish and a profound love for Theseus, a death that would seal his destiny with inescapable tragedy. When the ship finally docked, the Athenians rushed to greet Theseus as a triumphant hero. It was then that the young man learned of his father's grim fate. The news fell like a stone upon his chest. Theseus was paralyzed, utterly unable to speak. The silence that enveloped him spoke more than 1,000 words. He had won a mighty battle, but lost his father due to a fatal oversight. Aegeus's funeral was solemn and deeply attended by multitudes. The entire populace mourned the monarch's death, who, though he did not die in battle, fell victim to cruel destiny. Theseus, utterly devastated, led the ceremony and ordered a monument built at the very spot from which his father had cast himself. There, each year, a sacred ritual would be performed in his honor. This tragedy profoundly marked Theseus. From that moment forward, his gaze transformed. The arrogance of the impetuous youth gave way to a newfound maturity, forged by profound sorrow. He finally understood that victories carry immense responsibilities, and that oversights, no matter how small, can have irreversible consequences. The tragedy of the black sails became a perpetual lesson in the memory of the Athenians. In schools, elders would recount to the young the story of how a hero forgot a single detail and lost his father. It was a stark reminder that even the greatest can err, and that memory and careful attention to one's given word are true virtues of a genuine leader. In time, the sea that witnessed that tragedy officially received the name Aegean Sea, in enduring memory of the king who plunged into its waters. His story became forever intertwined with that of Theseus, and both names remained united by love, loss, and destiny. The people, though grief-stricken, did not cease to acclaim Theseus. He had brought peace by ending the tribute to Crete. He had liberated the young Athenians from the horror of the Labyrinth, and his legend was only just beginning to unfold. But deep within, Theseus carried a silent guilt that would accompany him for the remainder of his life. From then on, before every important maritime expedition, Athenian navigators would meticulously inspect their sails before setting sail or returning. The story of the black sails transformed into a powerful symbol of caution and deep reverence for pacts and omens. Theseus, though he continued his path to the throne, never forgot the heavy price he paid for his distraction. Every future decision would be marked by a newfound prudence. The figure of Aegeus would accompany him like a silent phantom, not as a reproach, but as a constant reminder of what truly mattered. Thus, amidst the glory of triumph and the crushing weight of loss, Theseus returned to Athens not as an audacious youth, but as a man touched by profound sorrow and transformative experience. His legend, woven with threads of heroism and tragedy, would continue to grow, yet never without the lingering shadow of those black sails unfurling on the distant horizon. Chapter 9. King of Athens, Lord of Wisdom. Theseus returned to Athens with a heart still wounded by recent tragedy, yet he was received as a true hero. The people celebrated his homecoming and the vanquishing of the Minotaur, though the profound loss of Aegeus cast a somber shadow upon the festivities. The city, now without a king, urgently needed a new leader, and all eyes turned to the young man who had so clearly demonstrated his valor and his cunning. Theseus, with quiet sorrow and profound humility, accepted the crown and solemnly ascended to the throne. His very first action as king was to render solemn honors to his father, Aegeus. He ordered a funeral befitting a monarch, complete with public ceremonies and altars erected in his father's enduring memory. The harbor where his father had so anxiously awaited his return would forever after be known as the Port of Aegeus. This profound gesture reinforced the people's deep respect for their new sovereign, who neither forgot his roots nor his departed. Athens began a new, promising era under his wise command. Theseus swiftly confronted the city's inherent internal challenges. Athens was still deeply divided into numerous clans and regions that acted as independent entities. Constant conflicts arose over land, power, and justice. As a visionary leader, Theseus proposed a radical unification to transform Athens into a single polis with common laws, robust institutions, and equal participation for all. This marked the true inception of the Athenian state as a cohesive entity. He summoned representatives from every tribe and region to form a common council. Thus was born the Synoecism, the unification of Attica under a single capital, Athens. Theseus did not seek to centralize all power in his own hands. Instead, he promoted the creation of rudimentary democratic structures. He established common festivals, collective cults, and laws that carefully balanced the rights of all citizens. He was a king who quietly sowed the very seeds of a nascent democracy. His governance was distinguished by its unwavering justice and firm resolve. He punished the corrupt and protected the vulnerable. He fostered education, the arts, and athletics, nurturing a strong civic spirit among the youth. He also significantly strengthened the army, not for aggressive conquest, but solely to protect the city and maintain order. Theseus's decisions were widely seen as wise and balanced, and his figure inspired profound respect, yet also a powerful sense of closeness. One of his greatest achievements was the establishment of the Panathenaic Games, a grand celebration in honor of Athena, the city's revered patroness. This festival included athletic competitions, artistic contests, and religious parades. It not only fostered Athenian pride, but also powerfully reinforced the common identity of the people. Under his steady hand, Athens began to transform into a shining model of culture, power, and profound unity. Theseus also showed deep concern for slaves and foreigners. While he did not abolish slavery, he notably improved their conditions and promoted laws against abuses. Foreigners who settled in the city were offered protection and limited participation in certain public activities. These measures provoked resistance among some conservative sectors, but popular support kept his authority firmly intact. During his reign, he also meticulously rebuilt temples and city walls, beautifying the city and reorganizing commerce. Athens prospered, and travelers arriving from other regions spoke of the splendor of a city governed by a king both just and brave. The economy flourished, art diffused, and citizens began to feel part of a shared, grand project. Theseus was far more than a hero. He was a true statesman. However, his role as king was not without its tensions. Some nobles viewed him as a threat to their privileges. His democratic reforms limited their power, and they began to conspire in the shadows. Theseus, keenly aware of these movements, chose to maintain vigilance without succumbing to authoritarianism. He trusted that his legitimacy flowed from the people and from his consistent actions. The king also actively sought to expand Athens' alliances with other cities. He established treaties with Thebes, Argos, and Corinth, founded on mutual cooperation and thriving commerce. These alliances powerfully strengthened Athens' position in the region and ensured a lasting peace. Theseus' diplomacy was both skillful and firm. He preferred dialogue over war, yet he did not hesitate to use force if absolutely necessary. In the religious sphere, Theseus respected traditional cults but strongly promoted the worship of Athena as a unifying symbol for the city. He ordered the construction of new altars and reformed religious rites to include all sectors of the population. His relationship with the priests was one of mutual respect, though he never allowed himself to be manipulated by them. His faith was strong yet rational, and he viewed the gods as guides, not as mere political instruments. Years passed, and Theseus remained an admired king, though signs of weariness began to emerge. The immense weight of responsibility, internal tensions, and lack of rest affected his spirit. Some began to question recent decisions, and rumors of conspiracies circulated once more, yet Theseus never surrendered. His vision of a strong and just Athens continued to guide his every step. Despite the challenges, Athens remained stable and widely respected. New generations grew up hearing tales of his valor in Crete and his wisdom as a ruler. In the public squares, the elders would proudly say, "Our king slew the Minotaur and gave us a united homeland." The name of Theseus became synonymous with progress, and his figure began to acquire legendary hues. In private, however, Theseus keenly felt the solitude of power. He had lost his father, he had left Ariadne behind, and his friendships had grown distant under the heavy burden of his office. His nights were silent, filled with poignant memories and persistent questions. Had he done what was truly right? Would he be remembered as a good king, or merely as a warrior? These doubts accompanied him in the quiet solitude of his palace. The history of Theseus as king of Athens was not merely a continuation of his heroism, but the profound consolidation of his lasting legacy. He transformed a divided city into a strong, respected, and admired polis. His reign marked the very beginning of an Athens that would later become the cradle of civilization. Although future years would bring their own shadows, his time on the throne left an indelible mark. Theseus was not a perfect king, but he was a true king. He governed with heart, with vision, and with unwavering courage. He knew how to unite, to transform, and to guide his people. His story as a monarch is the undeniable proof that true heroes do not only vanquish monsters, they also build nations. Chapter 10: Journeys, Alliances, and the Inner Labyrinth. After returning to Athens and assuming the throne, Theseus did not confine himself to governance alone. His restless spirit and innate audacity compelled him to embark on multiple heroic feats across all of Greece. His fame as a hero soared beyond the Athenian walls. Every region he touched bore witness to his valor and cunning. One of his first actions as king was to unify the peoples of Attica under a single government. Until then, they were fragmented into independent villages and tribes. Theseus proposed a synarchy, integrating institutions and creating a single city-state. Thus was born the political greatness of Athens. Theseus then traveled to Calydon, where he assisted in the famous Caledonian boar hunt. Although he was not the central protagonist of the hunt, his presence was crucial to the group's strategy. He shared this adventure with heroes like Meleager and Atalanta. The experience strengthened his bonds with other Hellenic regions. He also confronted Periphetes, the bandit who killed, with an iron club. Theseus defeated him using his own weapon, which he then adopted as a symbol of power. This act not only earned him the people's respect, but also enhanced his reputation as an invincible hero. It was a significant victory for his legend. In another journey, Theseus vanquished Sinis, the pine bender, who tied travelers to two bent trees that would tear them apart upon release. Theseus applied his own cruel punishment to him. This type of poetic justice was characteristic of his actions. He always acted with determination and a strong moral compass. No less impactful was his encounter with the Crommyonian sow, a monstrous creature that terrorized nearby villages. Theseus tracked it for days until he cornered it in a cave. After a fierce battle, he slew it with his sword. The region returned to peace thanks to his intervention. Another of his enemies was Siren, who forced travelers to wash his feet and then threw them into the sea from a cliff. There, a giant turtle would devour the victims. Theseus confronted him, and after a hand-to-hand struggle, pushed him from the very same cliff. Justice was restored. He continued his journey, facing Cercion, a savage wrestler who challenged strangers. Theseus accepted the challenge and defeated him with both technique and strength. He did not kill him out of brutality, but because Cercion did not respect the honor of combat. This duel was admired by many as a symbol of order triumphing over barbarism. He also defeated Damastes, known as Procrustes, who had a bed where he adjusted his guests, either stretching or cutting them to fit. Theseus, horrified by this cruelty, vanquished him and made him try his own bed. His reputation as a just hero solidified in every region. These feats not only eliminated physical threats, but also symbols of chaos and disorder. Theseus represented a new era where power was not synonymous with tyranny. Every victory reinforced the idea of a protective and wise king. His legacy began to be firmly shaped. Theseus also traveled to Delos to pay homage to Apollo. There he participated in ritual dances that commemorated his escape from the Labyrinth. This religious connection strengthened the relationship between Athens and the cults of the Aegean. His figure was not only that of a warrior, but also spiritual and cultural. In Thessaly, he attended the funeral of Perilous, king of the Lapiths, where he faced the centaurs. These creatures had attempted to kidnap the women during Perilous' wedding. Theseus fought ferociously and helped repel the creatures. There, a deep friendship was born between the two kings. Both decided that, due to their heroic status, they could only marry daughters of gods. Perilous desired Persephone, Hades' wife, which led them both to the underworld. It was one of Theseus's most reckless decisions. This journey marked the beginning of a darker stage in his life. In Hades, they were trapped by an illusion that immobilized them on an enchanted bench. Perilous remained there forever, while Theseus was rescued much later by Heracles. The experience profoundly marked him, showing him the limits of his ambition. It was a stark reminder of human fragility. After these adventures, Theseus returned to Athens, wiser and bearing new scars. His figure as king and hero was consolidated, but he had also changed. He was no longer just an impulsive youth. He now carried the heavy weight of his decisions. The world admired him, but he keenly knew the price of being a myth. Chapter 11. Threads of Diplomacy, Journeys and Alliances. The years following Theseus's consolidation as king were not solely marked by administration and peace. They were also defined by a series of strategic journeys. Theseus understood that Athens' greatness could not be sustained solely within its borders. Thus, he embarked on diplomatic expeditions throughout the Aegean Sea, establishing vital contacts with other important cities. These voyages were not mere gestures of courtesy, they were crucial pieces in a vast political chess game. One of his first destinations was Delos, where he reaffirmed religious ties with the priests of Apollo's sanctuary. There, solemn sacrifices and ritual dances were performed in honor of the god, a profound show of gratitude for his past victories. It is said that this visit greatly strengthened Athens' prestige as a spiritual center. He also seized the opportunity to forge closer commercial ties, ensuring the free passage of Athenian ships along the archipelago's trade routes. On his northward journey, Theseus arrived at Chalcis on the island of Euboea, where he was received by King Aegeus, not his father, an ancient ally of his own father. They discussed matters of maritime defense and copper trade, an essential resource for weapon manufacturing. It is recounted that after the visit, Theseus sent Athenian artisans to Chalcis to teach new foundry techniques, forging a lasting technical and military alliance. Another of his most significant stops was in Corinth, a city renowned for its wealth and ambition. Theseus held a key meeting with the region's ruler, proposing a non-aggression pact and cooperation against mutual threats, especially those emanating from Sparta. Corinth accepted, under one condition, that Athens respect Corinthian commercial rights in the Attic ports. The agreement was sealed with a public ceremony. During these voyages, Theseus also had to resort to force. On the island of Sipnos, a rebellion against Athenian authority had begun to take shape. Without seeking open war, Theseus arrived with a small fleet and demanded explanations from the local leaders. Through a blend of firmness and diplomacy, he managed to restore order without bloodshed, demonstrating his political maturity. Not all journeys were simple. In his passage through Naxos, a region that harbored lingering resentments from the incident with Ariadne, Theseus was met with suspicion. To calm tensions, he offered donations to the local temple and financed the construction of a dock. These gestures earned the respect of the island's elders, though the memory of Ariadne's abandonment still pained many hearts. A moment of great tension occurred in Thessaly, where some local leaders opposed the growth of Athenian power. Theseus attended an interstate council in Larissa, surrounded by leaders with suspicious gazes. In a memorable speech, he defended the vital need for unity among Greek cities against foreign threats, alluding to the powerful memory of the war against Crete. His eloquence managed to calm tempers, averting a potential rupture. In Mycenae, Theseus was received by Eurystheus, a powerful and distrustful king. Here the situation was more complicated, as Mycenae had previously supported Athens' enemies. However, Theseus skillfully negotiated, proposing diplomatic marriages between nobles of both cities and offering access to Athenian maritime routes. Although the relationship was not truly amicable, a tense but effective peace was achieved. In addition to important cities, Theseus visited small communities that had been forgotten by generations of kings. In a village in Locris, he personally listened to the peasants' grievances regarding unjust taxes. He ordered a fiscal reform that reduced the burden on the poorest, thereby increasing popular loyalty. These acts reinforced his image as a just king. He also used his travels to establish cultural alliances. In the city of Argos, he organized a joint festival in honor of Hera and Athena, allowing an exchange of artists and poets. This type of initiative cemented a bridge between cultures that had previously ignored each other. Athens began to stand out not only for its strength, but also for its cultural refinement. An interesting detail of these journeys was his constant interest in the governance systems of other regions. In Thebes, Theseus met with legislators and studied local laws, some of which he later adapted to Athenian reality. This intellectual openness contrasted with other monarchs of the era, who were more interested in imposing than in learning. Theseus's strategy also included diplomatic marriages. He betrothed Athenian nobles to daughters of allied rulers, creating a family network among several influential houses of the Greek world. These ties prevented rebellions and invasions for years. The network of alliances became an invisible wall that protected Athens better than any fortress. During these years, Theseus was not only a king, he transformed into a symbol of Hellenic unity. His vision extended beyond the present. He saw Greece as a community of sister peoples with Athens as its guide. His ability to balance firmness with dialogue earned him unique prestige. He was no longer merely a legendary hero, but a respected leader throughout the known world. One of the last destinations of his expeditions was Delphi, where he once again consulted the oracle. The Pythia told him that he still had a greater destiny to fulfill, beyond alliances or conquests. These words remained etched in his mind. He did not yet understand what she meant, but he sensed that his story was still far from over. His travels ended, but his spirit of expansion did not. Upon his return to Athens, he was received with jubilation. Markets prospered, temples were visited by foreign delegations, and children learned songs narrating his deeds. The alliances he forged consolidated Athens as an influential and secure city. Theseus, without wars or bloody conquests, had woven a powerful network of peaceful influence. This period marked the political zenith of his reign. He had transformed Athens into a beacon of civilization and diplomacy. His enemies feared him, his allies admired him, and his people loved him. However, history still held harsh trials in store for him. Glory is never permanent, not even for the greatest heroes of Greece. Chapter 12. The Amazon Queen and the Price of Conquest. The name of Hippolyta resonates in Greek myths as one of the most prominent queens of the Amazons, a people of fierce warrior women renowned for their prowess and unwavering autonomy. These women lived apart from men, governed by courageous and formidable queens. Hippolyta was no exception. She was the daughter of Ares, the god of war, and wore a sacred belt as a powerful symbol of her authority. Her compelling story became intertwined with that of Theseus in a crucial episode of his life. Theseus journeyed to the land of the Amazons, and the exact reasons for this trip are debated across different versions of the myth. Some tales suggest it was part of an expedition with Heracles, who needed to obtain Hippolyta's belt as one of his labors. Other versions contend that Theseus, by his own decision, set out for Themyscira with the explicit goal of conquering or abducting Hippolyta. Whatever the motivation, his arrival was not without significant consequences. When Theseus first arrived in the Amazonian lands, he was initially received with respect and even a degree of hospitality. Hippolyta, impressed by his presence and his reputation as a hero, appeared willing to engage in dialogue. It is said that she offered him her belt as a gesture of peace or even out of burgeoning love. However, other accounts narrate that the encounter quickly devolved into an ambush orchestrated by the hero. What is certain is that soon after, Hippolyta was forcibly taken to Athens. The abduction of Hippolyta ignited a furious outburst among the Amazons, who resolved to cross the Aegean Sea and disembark on Athenian territory to rescue their queen. It was an unprecedented event, an army of warrior women marching toward the very heart of Greece. Mythological chronicles speak of a brutal conflict that nearly destabilized the entire region. The Amazons encamped on the outskirts of Athens, poised to attack. Despite the palpable tension and the preparations for war, Theseus offered to parley with Hippolyta, who now found herself torn between her people and the bond that had begun to develop with the hero. Some accounts affirm that she did not wish to return to her homeland, while others maintain that she was subtly manipulated. Amidst the escalating conflict, some Amazons began to desert, sensing a lack of unity within their leadership. Finally, the fierce battle between the Athenians and the Amazons erupted, famously known as the Amazon Omachi. It was a brutal and bloody struggle, where both sides demonstrated immense courage and strategic prowess. Although the Amazons managed to advance to the very walls of Athens, Theseus, with the timely support of strategic allies, successfully repelled the attack. The war ended with many casualties, including, in some versions, the death of Hippolyta herself. However, in other versions, it is said that Hippolyta did not die in battle, but married Theseus and became Queen of War, Athens alongside him. This version posits a reconciliation between two seemingly opposing worlds, the masculine sphere of Greek politics and the feminine, autonomous world of the Amazons. Although her role became more discreet, her influence in the Athenian court remained strong. Her presence marked a before and after in the hero's story. The figure of Hippolyta is notably ambiguous across the ancient narratives. She was a sovereign queen, then a captive, and ultimately a wife or a victim, depending on the version. This shifting portrayal reveals how the ancient Greeks grappled with the powerful idea of strong women within a patriarchal society. The Amazons represented the antithesis of the submissive woman, and their inclusion in myths always implied either conflict or profound transformation. Classical sources like Plutarch, Diodorus Siculus, and Apollodorus offer differing accounts of the same episode, making it challenging to establish a single definitive narrative. Some even confuse Hippolyta with her sister Antiope, suggesting it was the latter who married Theseus. In all versions, however, one element remains constant: the profound cultural and political impact of the encounter between Theseus and the Amazons. After the conflict, temples and monuments were established in Athens to commemorate the victory over the Amazons. One of the most famous is the portico known as the Stoa Poikile, adorned with paintings of the Amazon Omachi. This battle was utilized as a symbol of the triumph of Hellenic order over the savage and foreign, solidifying Theseus's image as a staunch defender of civilization. Some modern historians interpret the story of Hippolyta as an allegory for the conquest of the exotic and the feminine by the Greek masculine order. Theseus's figure as a civilizing hero is also constructed through these narratives, in which he confronts and subjugates alternative societies. The Amazons were not simply antagonists. They were, in essence, a distorted mirror reflecting Greek society itself. This episode also marked a significant point of maturation in Theseus's life. Until then, his adventures had primarily presented him as a brave, impulsive, and ambitious youth. But his complex relationship with Hippolyta, whether of love or confrontation, forced him to make profoundly intricate political decisions. Governing after confronting the Amazons demanded diplomacy, damage control, and a renewed sense of legitimacy. Hippolyta's presence in the court also generated internal tensions. Some Athenian nobles would not accept the idea of a foreign queen, much less a woman who had been a warrior. It is said that this led to internal disputes that Theseus attempted to appease through reforms. However, the echoes of this union would continue to resonate in later chapters of his life. In Greek art, Hippolyta was often depicted as a majestic woman, armed yet serene. She was not portrayed as a savage, but as an equal, worthy of profound respect. This reveals that, despite the narrative of conquest, there was also an underlying admiration for her. Her figure inspired sculptures, vases, and dramatic works that immortalized her as one of mythology's most powerful female characters. The encounter with Hippolyta and her people left an indelible mark on Theseus's history. It was not just another adventure, but a clash of civilizations, a human drama laden with passions, betrayals, divided loyalties, and decisions that would shape his future. The Amazons were not entirely vanquished. Their rebellious spirit remained etched in Greece's memory, both as a warning and as a timeless legend. Chapter 13. The Descent of a Hero. Theseus, after consolidating his image as an influential leader in Athens, faced new challenges that would profoundly test his wisdom and his capacity for governance. One of the most significant was his deep relationship with Perilous, king of the Labyrinth, who became his great friend and steadfast ally. Together, they shared countless adventures, yet also ventured into reckless decisions that bordered on sheer arrogance. The friendship between them, though undeniably strong, led them to commit acts that would ultimately endanger their very lives. The most perilous of these was an audacious, imprudent attempt to abduct Persephone from the underworld. Perilous, driven by a desire to marry a goddess, persuaded Theseus to accompany him to Hades with the intent of kidnapping Persephone, the formidable wife of Hades. Although Theseus harbored deep doubts, he ultimately acceded out of unwavering loyalty to his friend. Both descended into the underworld and were received by the god of the dead. Hades, keenly aware of their true intentions, feigned hospitality and invited them to sit on an enchanted rock. The moment they did so, they became instantly trapped, utterly unable to rise again. They were condemned to remain there for all eternity. For years, Theseus remained ensnared in the underworld, utterly devoid of hope for escape. It was only thanks to the timely intervention of Heracles, who descended into Hades as part of one of his labors, that Theseus finally managed to break free. Heracles stretched out his arm with all his formidable strength and tore Theseus from the rock. But he could not perform the same feat for Pirate House, whose guilt for desiring a goddess was already irrevocably sealed by the gods. Theseus returned to the world of the living, but profoundly marked by a deep sadness, for the loss of his companion and for the immense time lost in the oppressive darkness. Upon his return to Athens, he found a city transformed. During his long absence, his enemies had subtly sown doubts about his reign, and his authority was no longer the same. Some nobles considered him weak for having disappeared for so long without explanation. Others seized upon his return to demand a change in leadership. Although he attempted to re-establish order, his influence had waned, and his decisions were constantly questioned. Theseus began to feel the heavy weight of political and personal weariness. Even so, Theseus did not surrender. He decided to temporarily leave Athens to seek new alliances and strengthen his image. He traveled to the island of Scyros, where he hoped to find a place to reorganize his forces. There, he was received by King Lycomedes, who initially welcomed him with outward respect. However, the monarch's true intentions were sinister. He feared that Theseus might usurp his power or destabilize his authority. Therefore, he feigned hospitality while meticulously plotting his betrayal. Lycomedes invited Theseus to stroll along the island's high cliffs, pretending to show him the breathtaking landscapes. As they walked near the edge, the king seized a moment of inattention and brutally pushed him into the void. Theseus plummeted from a great height and died instantly, his body shattered against the unforgiving rocks below. His death was silent and unwitnessed, a tragedy utterly unworthy of one of Greece's greatest heroes. The king concealed the crime, falsely claiming it had been an accident. For a long time, the truth about his death remained tragically unknown. News of his demise reached Athens much later, causing widespread shock and profound mourning among the citizens. Despite the political divisions his absence had sown, many remembered him as the hero who had liberated the city from the tribute to Crete. His image was rehabilitated over time, and his feats began to be recounted in songs and legends passed down from generation to generation. In later years, a cult in his honor was initiated. Theseus was considered a national hero, and his figure was revered as a powerful symbol of courage, justice, and civilization. Temples were built in his name, the most famous being the Theseon in Athens. There, citizens paid homage to his memory, leaving offerings and performing rituals on designated dates. His tomb became a place of pilgrimage, and his legacy continued to grow even after his tragic death. The story of Theseus also served as a warning about the perils of unchecked ambition and ill-chosen companions. His bond with Pirate House, though sincere, led him to make fatal decisions that irrevocably shaped his destiny. The attempt to abduct a goddess not only defied divine norms, but sealed his fall in the eyes of the gods. It was a bitter lesson about the limits that even heroes should never cross. However, his life was also a shining example of valor in the face of danger, intelligence in crucial moments, and unwavering service to his people. He defeated the Minotaur, united the peoples of Attica, and promoted political reforms for the benefit of all. He was one of the few heroes who also acted as a true statesman, always seeking the delicate balance between force and justice. Athens honored him not only for his physical victories, but for his profound vision of a better city. His death was not the end of his story. In the collective Greek imagination, Theseus transcended as a model of a civilizing hero, remarkably different from others who excelled only through brute strength. His humanity, his errors, and his yearning for redemption made him deeply relatable to the people. Unlike unattainable gods or demigods, Theseus embodied human dilemmas and the daily struggles for the common good. In both tragedy and glory, Theseus reflected the profound complexity of the Greek soul. He was loved, criticized, betrayed, and remembered, but never forgotten. His life demonstrated that even heroes are not exempt from falls, and that true legacy is built through acts that endure beyond death. Through him, Athens forged an identity, and his figure inspired generations to seek virtue with courage and responsibility. His end, though bitter, did not erase the greatness of his deeds. Theseus lived with intensity, fought with determination, and died betrayed. But his memory proved stronger than any betrayal. Thus, his spirit lived on in the soul of Athens, a symbol of what could be achieved when power united with ideals. From the walls of the Labyrinth to the altars of the people, his name was etched into history. Theseus's final challenges revealed both his immense greatness and his poignant vulnerabilities. His errors did not eclipse his light, rather, they made it more real. In him, the Greeks saw not only a savior, but also a mirror. His fall was human, but his legacy was divine. In the balance of history, Theseus was immortalized not only by his victories, but by having lived with passion, decision, and unwavering purpose until the very end. Chapter 14. Threads of Legend, Curiosities, and Legacy. Although Theseus is primarily known for vanquishing the Minotaur, his figure encompasses many other fascinating aspects. In Athens, his cult was so strong that he came to be considered a second founder of the city. It was said that he consolidated the Synoecism, unifying scattered tribes under a single authority. This centralization helped lay the foundations for what, centuries later, would become Athenian democracy. A little-mentioned curiosity is that Theseus was Aethra's son, but his paternity was ambiguous. Some said he was the son of Aegeus, king of Athens. Others claimed he was a descendant of Poseidon. This dual human and divine ancestry granted him a special status among Greek heroes. This ambiguity also reinforced his connection to both the earth and the sea, fundamental elements in his life. In some accounts, Theseus did not travel to Crete alone. Other Athenian youths chosen as tribute accompanied him. Among them, it was said, were even nobles and individuals close to the royal family. This expedition transformed over time into a symbol of collective sacrifice for the greater good, and Theseus became the emblem of the bravery that liberated them from the Cretan yoke. After his return, Athens began to celebrate festivals called Theseia in his honor. These celebrations included races, sacrifices, and athletic competitions. They were seen as a way to thank him for bringing freedom and unity to the Athenian people. Records of these festivities persisted for centuries, evidencing the hero's enduring mark. A legend recounts that Theseus's bones were discovered many centuries later on the island of Syros. The Oracle of Delphi reportedly instructed the Athenians to seek the hero's remains and bring them back to the city. When they finally did so, they erected a temple in his honor, the Theseion, which became an important cult and pilgrimage site. Theseus was not only a warrior, but also a legislator. Some ancient historians credit him with instituting the system of social classes in Athens. He divided society into eupatridae, nobles, gorgoi, farmers, and demiurgoi, artisans, allowing for a more equitable organization. Although these reforms are debated, they reflect his image as a just and visionary leader. Among the most surprising curiosities is his role in the story of Oedipus. It is said that after the exile of the blind king of Thebes, it was Theseus who offered him asylum in Colonus, a gesture of compassion and nobility. This episode reveals a less combative facet of the hero, focused on empathy and respect for the fate of others. Theseus's relationships with women are also a matter of discussion. Beyond Ariadne and Hippolyta, there were other romantic ties, such as Phaedra, his second wife. However, these stories are often laden with tragedy, which has led to more complex interpretations of his character. Theseus was not perfect, and his humanity is revealed in these turbulent relationships. It is said that Theseus participated in the Argonauts' expedition alongside Jason and other famous heroes. Although his role was secondary, his inclusion in this epic shows his integration into the great pantheon of Greek mythical figures. He would also have been present at the Caledonian boar hunt, reinforcing his image as a tireless adventurer. The myth of Theseus was reinterpreted for centuries by philosophers, playwrights, and politicians. Plato mentions him as an example of an ideal ruler, while Euripides' and Sophocles' tragedies explore his moral dilemmas. His figure served as a mirror for the values society wished to promote or question. A well-known philosophical curiosity is the famous paradox of Theseus. It questions whether a ship, when all its parts are replaced, remains the same ship. This idea, which stems from Theseus's supposed ship preserved in Athens, has sparked debates for millennia about identity, change, and permanence. During the Renaissance, Theseus's figure was revived in art and literature. Painters like Rubens and sculptors like Canova depicted him in imposing works. His struggle against the Minotaur became a symbol of reason's triumph over bestiality, a reading heavily influenced by the humanism of the era. In modern popular culture, Theseus has appeared in films, novels, video games, and comics. From faithful adaptations to creative interpretations, the hero continues to fascinate. His archetype has even influenced contemporary characters, embodying the hero's journey and confrontation with the unknown. Despite his tragic end and the passage of centuries, Theseus's legacy lives on. He represents the struggle for freedom, the construction of identity, and the need to overcome trials to grow. His life, full of both light and shadow, reflects the complexity of the human soul in search of transcendence. Theseus was much more than a monster slayer. He was a symbol for a people, an instrument of reforms, and an inspiration for entire generations. Through his triumphs and failures, he left an indelible echo in the history of Greece and the world. His myth endures, teaching that the true hero not only conquers, but transforms all that he touches. That is all for today, travelers. I hope you have enjoyed this story and found it useful. Thank you deeply for sharing this moment with me. We will meet again in the next installment of Forgotten Scrolls.